Latest fall camp intel from across the country. We're getting there. Week 0 next week. Everybody starts the week after that, so you better get it in gear. What about LSU? Defense was an improvement last year. It was terrible 2 years ago. I am as high on their defensive staff as I could be any defensive staff in the country. Blake Baker is the truth. He had limited ingredients to work with last year. I think they made more than the most out of what was available last year. I don't think we've talked about that enough, actually. I don't know that during the season last year, people even realized how overachieving that unit was. Now, you may say to yourself, dude, but it wasn't a great defense last year. It should have sucked. Should have still been really bad. And it was only average. So, this year it's going to make a huge leap. All the intel we've gotten out of LSU, and I believe every bit of it, is expect a pretty sizable production leap here. They got 6 plug-and-play starters from the portal. Now, you can listen to that and you can interpret that 2 ways. You can interpret that as saying, wow, the cupboard was bare, so any old guy could walk in off the street and start for him. You could be that way. Knowing the internet like I do, some of you are that way. Or you could say, yeah, the cupboard was fairly bare, but might they be one of the best front offices and one of the best personnel departments in America, led by one of the best general managers in America? Spoiler alert, the answer is yes on that. Might they have gone and gotten really good pieces to plug in? Might they have hit on all of them? I tend to think it's the latter. It's not without its growing pains. You don't just throw pieces in a blender and spit it out. And, oh, look, a top 5 defense. No, that's not the way that happens. So there may be busts early in the season. You may see Cade Klubnik make you a little uncomfortable week 1, even if you go win. Maybe you look and you say, I can't believe we went in there and won. That's great, but we still got some holes to plug. We got some things to clean up. That's okay. That's okay. That can be part of the recipe of what ends up being a great season. Harold Perkins is a story that LSU fans have been following. I just want to let the rest of the country know what's happening here. Harold Perkins, once upon a time, freshman All-American at edge. Then he goes to linebacker, production's down, he tears his ACL. And that's the last most of you heard of Harold Perkins. He is still there. He is currently taking reps at the star position in LSU's defense. The star position in LSU's defense, like most defenses, is this safety linebacker hybrid. So he can still rush the passer, but there will be situations where there will be many situations where you see Harold Perkins in coverage this year, and there aren't many body types like that in coverage normally, by design at least. And you may think to yourself, that dude looks like Harold Perkins. It's him. It's him. Just if you catch yourself saying that about LSU, it's him. I can't wait to watch that. What I can't wait to watch also with LSU, but for different and more concerning reasons, is the offensive line. Because I got to tell you, I came out of spring feeling pretty good about the O-line there. I don't feel as good about it. I hope they can get it together. I'm just saying, if you look at the schedule right now, if Louisiana Tech was their week 1 game at home, it'd be, all right, we'll jump and we'll figure out the parachute on the way down in week 1. You can't do that on the offensive line at Clemson. You just can't. So you got another scrimmage to go, and then you got 2 weeks of build up to the Clemson game. You got a really good offensive staff down there. Like, they know what they're doing. They better know what they're doing, because it's very mixed reviews right now along the offensive line at LSU. Got to have it. Got to have it. Nuss is only as good as that offensive line in front of him. Remember, we're trying to run the ball a lot more efficiently down there as well. Offensive line, got to make it happen. What about Nebraska? Well, as you may remember, Dana Holgorsen has now assumed offensive coordinator responsibilities here. So we got Holgorsen as the OC at Nebraska. Now we got Malzahn as the OC at FSU. A lot of folks hopping back into the coordinator chair. The feedback we're getting is the wide receiver group and the running back group is much better than anticipated. Now, that doesn't mean they thought they were going to be terrible. It's just the group, especially the depth at wide receiver, the quality of player there, it's just better. And then you pair that with Dylan Raiola, another year under his belt experience-wise, teaming up with Dana Holgorsen. I just think the offense and the level of production from that offense, the explosivity from that offense may take some people by surprise this year. That offensive line, it looks like the starting 5 will all have double-digit games started experience, the current projected starting 5 there. Also, in the interest of putting you onto a name early that I promise you no one else around your local water cooler is talking about, I want you to remember the name Archie Wilson. You probably could have guessed that by the first name he's a punter, because no one after the mid-'90s named Archie did anything other than punt. That's a fact that we didn't look up. That's a fact in college football. Archie Wilson is a true freshman. He has never played a game of American football. I expect him to be a huge weapon for Nebraska because he is an Australian punter. And all those people know how to do is kick the ball 70 yards in the air. And apparently the returns out of practice have been that. And Nebraska's sitting on this kid, and they know they've got him, and they know no one cares about special teams. People claim it's a third of the game, yet they never talk about it. And so they know that the guy's not going to get overhyped, aside from shows like this, spoiling it for everyone. Archie Wilson, as sure as this pack of papers is hitting this desk, Nebraska has got a weapon, and the dude's never played American football before. Hey, really quick timeout. We'll get right back to the video. Do me one favor. Make sure you're subscribed. It helps us keep the show free. It helps us keep the lights on. It helps us keep doing college football year-round, and we appreciate it. All right, back to the video. Ole Miss. All right. I don't want to backtrack, but it's going to sound like I'm kind of backtracking a little bit. But not really. You know what? Let's see how it goes. Okay, so I expect defensive drop-off at Ole Miss this year. I think Ole Miss was too good defensively last year to just continue merrily along at that level. That's what I've thought. I've said that on the show before. Maybe the defensive drop-off will only be very minor because they were top 5 at various points in the year in a lot of the statistics. So they could drop off and still be top 10 to understand what I'm talking about here, to kind of set a baseline. It's important to note when you say a team is portal reliant, it's important to not just say that blanketly. It's important to go case by case. Because, for example, at Ole Miss, have they taken a lot of kids out of the portal? Yes, they have. However, Suntarine Perkins, they didn't take him out of the portal. He's always been there. Xavier Harris has always been there. Jamarius Brown has always been there. Will Eccles has always been there. They recruited all those kids out of high school. None of them are true freshmen, and those are all starters along their defensive line. So Pete Golding's got a defensive line there that is homegrown. They recruited them, they developed them, and that's going to be a really good group of players. Stay healthy, of course, but that's going to be a really good group of players. DB is a bigger concern. So maybe that's where the drop-off is. But that defensive front could be sneaky really good, again, for Ole Miss. Now, Austin Simmons, quarterback, kind of being overshadowed, I think, a little bit because of all the other bigger names. I don't know why Simmons wouldn't be a big name. He is to us. But he's not like Arch Manning. He's not getting the run that Ty Simpson is. He's not being talked about as much as Gunnar Stockton, Julian Sayin. Some of these dudes may or may not even win their job. But make no mistake about it. Now, Austin Simmons is the real deal. He'll eventually take off. The difference with Ole Miss and these other teams is Ole Miss does not play anyone to start the year, all due respect. They don't play anyone. So you won't notice Ole Miss for a little while. You will not watch much of Austin Simmons unless you're a Rebels fan. You won't be seeing much of them because you don't care about the Georgia State game. Ole Miss goes to Kentucky. Even though they lost to him at home last year, you will still not convince yourself that game's worth watching. You don't expect anything from Arkansas. Whether you're right or wrong, you don't expect anything. Ironically, the Tulane game is probably the game that may get the most attention up until the LSU game, the 27th of September. That's when you start watching Ole Miss for the first time. Well, by then, Austin Simmons has got a month worth of live action under his belt. Also, Kawan Lacey, probably the starting running back there. Just a Missouri transfer. Interesting. Just keep an eye on him. Very interesting. How about UCLA? People blame us for not talking about UCLA on the show much. They're right. We don't talk about them a whole lot. But maybe this won't be a mess. Keep getting feedback. Maybe this won't be a mess. Eric Bieniemy was not a good college football offensive coordinator. And he's not there anymore. He's moved on. Tino Sunseri probably will be. And he is there now. And so it's just a lot better fit at coordinator. Nico Iamaleava is the quarterback there now. You remember that whole thing from spring. But they hired really good. They hired a good offensive coordinator there. I don't think Tino will be there 5 years. I think he'll be good enough to where he'll get opportunities very, very quickly. But in the meantime, Quasi Gilmer, I believe, is the wide receiver whose name will pop pretty immediately for them because they lost their top 2 receivers to the portal, remember. So that's a guy who has a long runway in front of him. And you got a guy who can throw you the ball if Nico has progressed as a passer. You got a coordinator who's going to dial it up. I'm interested to see what kind of production level they get there because they got 5 upperclassmen on the offensive line. So, like, everything was pretty bad last year. How far would they have to improve to be any kind of factor? They're not going to win the Big Ten. They're not going to compete for the Big Ten, but to be any kind of factor. Because, look, they do play Nebraska. They do play Penn State. They do play at Ohio State. They do play USC. So they play almost all the contenders outside of Oregon. They play UNLV as well. Could they mess it up for someone else? They play Utah. They could spoil someone's year. They could spoil a couple of your years.